This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everybody. Hello. This is your guest Sandy here. If you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome. My name is Sandy. A little bit about my background. I'm a licensed financial professional and a financial coach, right? So I'm actually located in Columbus, Ohio. So if there's anybody here in Columbus, Ohio, hello. And everybody, if you can put in the chart where you are watching this video from or where you're calling from, right? All right. So I hope everybody is doing great. Yeah. Welcome. Like I said, we have a lot of information here to share, right? All right. So let me ask you something very real. This is a very important question, right? If the Have you thought about this, right? If you were to stop working today, how long will your money actually last? Okay. Let's say you stop working because what? You lost your job, right? You got laid off, which may take you a while before you can find another employment, or because you get sick, right? Not just, 1 week or two illness, like the common cold that you can get over quickly. But what are those? The critical illness. What are those? The cancer, heart attack, end stage renal disease on dialysis, paralysis, blindness, right? You need organ transplant, you have Alzheimer's, right? Or dementia. How are you going to survive? How long are you actually going to survive? Or if you're not critical ill, but you are chronically, right? Because you can do your daily activities, also known as ADLs, right? What are those? You cannot eat. Even if something that a child can do, you can do yourself, right? Because you go to a very bad motor vehicle accident or through old age, right? You can transfer, you can control your bowels, right? Balance, you have balance issues, right? You can even bathe or dress yourself, right? How long are you actually your emergency fund? How long is it going to last you? So not what you hope, right? Hope is not a strategy. Not what you think. I mean, if your paycheck stopped today, how long could you survive? Let that sink in. Let that question resonate with you. How long are you going to survive? Right? Most women don't know. And why am I saying that? Because I've talked to numerous of women and I've had a conversation and had a lot of presentation. And when I ask this same question, they'll just say, I don't know, or maybe I'm hoping, right? There come the hoping, which is not a strategy, that at least I will survive. My emergency funds will help me survive 3 to 6 months. That is the average answer that I get from most women or most family that I actually talk to. Okay. But that's what I've said again. Hope is not a retirement strategy. It's not a retirement strategy and it's not emergency strategy. You cannot hope. Well, most of us believe in God, right? We have a very high hope in Him, but right, but when it comes to having a financial strategy in place, right? You need to help yourself. You need to have a strategy, right? So you might be thinking, oh, I'll figure it out later, or you put it behind, you don't want to think about it, or I've saved something, so I should be fine. So when you say something, right? What what is that something? How much, how long is that going to last you? That comes back to what? That strategy is just that plan is just going to fail and it's going to backfire, right? So the truth is most people aren't on track. They're not on track to retire. We pray, we hope, like that is straight away. We hope and think that when we are like at that retirement age, at that age 65, we should be okay. But the truth with the fact is, I am originally from Ghana, right? I've seen in the Ghanaian community, I have seen in so many communities that majority of women that I know and family that I know, I see them that they retire and still have to go back to work because what? They didn't have a better plan, they were not on track, they did not identify the gap, which I will talk about as we go through this video. They did not have any plan. They were just hoping things work, right? Ignoring doesn't make the problem go away. It has not worked for decades, neither is it going to work now. It's even harder right now, right? With the way inflation and everything is, going, right? So today, as the purpose of this video, is I'm going to show you how to check if you're actually on track to retire and what to do if you are not, right? So when we know if you're on track, it gives us a better idea what are the strategies that we can put in place so that we'll be back on track, right? All right. So before we start this, I want to start with a story, right? I always like to share my client information. She has given me the permission to share her story so that everybody can learn from it, right? So I spoke with her. She's a woman in her mid-50s, right? She always want to be somebody who wants to plan. She's very strategic, right? She want to know exactly what she has in for her retirement plan. She's strong. She's responsible, right? She worked very hard. She know how to make money. She's highly educated. She's making good income, right? She's a high income earner. She had worked hard her entire life, right? She's been working and she's still working, right? So she told me, Sandy, I've been working since I was 19. I should be okay. I've saving up. I have 401k. I have some investment. I should be okay. So I told her, okay, all right, that's good. That's good. I always like to hear that one. I like to talk to clients who already have things in place. They're already planning, right? They have it in mind. So we sat down and ran her numbers. She had a 401k that she has been contributing for years, right? She's been putting majority of her retirement plan in her 401k, right? That's her main source of retirement, right? And a little savings here and there and some other investment that she had, right? She didn't have any major debt, unlike us who are drowning in either student loan. She didn't have any student loan. She was paid. Her house was also, she already paid all her house. She really has like credit card bills and some car loan that she'll be actually be done paying that off very soon, right? On the surface, she seemed okay, right? Because she didn't have a whole lot of debt, but it did not. The number did not lie, right? But when we actually calculate the number, she was so almost tearful, tearful. She almost tear up crying. When I told her how much she actually need to retire, her voice broke, like I said, she was so sad. So she was like, so Sandy, you are telling me I might have to work forever. The dream vacation that I've been planning so many years to take with my family, to have freedom of time, to spend some quality time with my grandkids. That dream, is it shattered, Sandy? And then the hardest part is she said, I don't want to depend on my kids. I want to be independent, right? I don't want to be a parent who is a burden on my kids or my grandkids. I want whatever that I have in the future, it should be able to sustain me so far as I'm living, right? Lifetime income, right? I've worked too hard. I have worked too hard to be a burden or to rely or just depend on my kids for survival or the government for survival. She did not want to depend on the government either, right? She's a highly educated, right, high income woman earner that she's been making money for years, that she want her portfolios to be sufficient for her as a retirement right income. That moment stayed with me for so long, right? Because I've talked to so many women. They are quietly carry that fear every day, right? Most women, they fear about what the unknown is, right? What if it doesn't look good? What if the numbers are not showing that I'm ready, like this woman felt? Then they just ignore it in the fear that they don't even want to know, right? By just ignoring it, it's not going to fix the problem. It's just rather going to make the whole situation worse, right? I know that fear. I've seen that fear. I've had that fear myself, right? It took a very long self-reflection, right? Mindset fix, right? I had to have a lot of self-reflection on myself to get over that fear, to let the numbers talk, let the numbers do its job, right? Because numbers does not lie, right? Whatever you have is whatever you have. It's not going to change. Ignoring it and hoping it goes away is not going to fix that either, right? And I know it has not been the best way of just ignoring it. Okay. So this leads us to what? Your retirement number. What is your retirement number and how are you going to know that, right? So there is actually 5 steps, okay? So this is the step one, right? So the retirement number, this is the amount of money that you need to live the life you want to in retirement, right? Because when you retire, you're still going to have bills and you want to, right, travel and do other things, go to everywhere, places that you couldn't go because you were so busy working and raising your family, right? But those all require money, right? I think even as a retirement, you use more money than you actually are when you're working because you want to travel, do fun stuff. You have time, right, to do it. If you are not retiring and going back to work, you actually do have time to do those stuff. So if you have time to do all that vacation, having fun, enjoy time with family, all that require money. Okay. So for example, you say, oh, I want 5,000 per month every month, monthly, right? As a retirement income, that is like 60K or 60,000 annually. Okay. So if you are going to live for like at least 25 years more, if you multiply that, that's 1.5 million. The question is, do you even have half of that saved up? Saved up in the environment, right? That is really a downside. It has downside market protection. You are not going up and down like a 401k, the 403b, the TSB, those invested in the stock market, which are mostly hopeful, right? You hope they don't lose a lot of money. Like I said, hope is not a strategy. It is not a good strategy, right? That you pray that you don't lose majority of your money, which is not a strategy either, right? So that target number, when you have that target, that 1.5 million, sitting in a portfolio, that will give you at least 6% interest rates with downside market protection. Knowing this number, this target number, it gives you clarity, right? Without it, you're just doing the guesswork, right? You're just guessing, right? And praying and hoping that things work out, right? All right. So step two, right? So now you know your target number, right? Remember how we did the target number? You multiply your monthly, how much you want, like $5,000. You multiply it times 12, it will give you 60,000, right? Then if you want to like how long you're going to retire, right? Let's say you're 30 years, you're going to multiply by 30 years or 35, you're going to want to retire by age 65. Okay, so how long you have to work, you multiply by that number and it's going to give you that target number. Now that you have that number, right, you add up everything that you already have, right? Let's look up your 401k, your IRA, your savings, and your other investments, right? Most people, you need to look at that number. You want to take out, right? Because that's something that you already have, okay? Many people skip this step because it feels overwhelming. But this is where clarity actually starts, right? You need to know that you've actually, all these years, whatever you've saved, you can take it out of what you actually need in the future so that you'll be able to find out the gap, right? So the gap is what the difference between what you need and what you actually have, okay? So knowing that is the, excuse me, knowing that this exactly will help you see what is working and what is not. That's what we call, in the healthcare, the assessment, right? You're going to assess to find out what you have, what has been working, what investment has been working, and what else you need to do, right? Okay, so this leads us to step three, right? Talk about the gap. That is step three is where you identify. Step three is where you identify the gap, right? So you take that target number, right, and the amount, which is the amount that you need, and you subtract from what you already have. Like I said, this shows you the gap. And yes, sometimes it stinks. The gap is huge. You may thinking about retiring like 25 years or 30 years, but the numbers show that you have like more than 50 years more to that. And that is when, after talking to, sitting down and working with most families and most women, that is when it hits very deep, right? It's just painful and it's the sad truth. The numbers does not look great. Because why? We've been ignoring it. It's middle class. We've been ignoring these numbers. We've been ignoring, thinking about retiring. We know we want to retire. So that what the question I usually think about, we are just looking at, okay, when I'm age 65, I want to retire. Yet we do not have the money to retire. Because the truth to be told, if you have the money to retire, you don't need to be 65 years to retire, right? That is the truth. You do not need a 65. You don't need to be 70. You don't, because the retirement age keep going up and up and up, right? That is what the government has set up. You don't need the government to tell you when you need to retire, right? If you have the portfolio in, right, you have your portfolio that is giving you a high interest rate with the downside market protection, right? You don't need any age or certain number to retire. You can retire tomorrow if you have that money. But like talking to many women and family, they don't even have half of that saved up, right? Half of that is not even in their portfolios, right? So, but here's the truth. You can't fix a problem you don't see. Like I said, we've been ignoring it for so many years. But if you can see it, if you don't put in the numbers, how are you going to fix that problem? Seeing the gap, it creates agency and it's empowering, right? It's empowering, right? It lets you know what you need to know. You don't know what you don't know, right? So you just have to go through, if you want to just go through the life and hoping and praying that age 65, you have then enough money to retire. You're going to work for a very long time, okay? So step 4, this leads us to step 4, right? Consider growth and time, right? So consider growth and time. So your money grows with investment and compound interest, right? So I'm going to make some videos. Like I said, this will be like weekly video that I'll be doing. You want your money to be sitting in an environment, right, that has downside market protection, like I said, and giving you compound interest, okay? If you have that, you also have to give it time. So when you lose time, time is irreversible, right? Once you lose time, you will never get it back, okay? So you need to put your money first at an environment that is giving you compound interest, right? Getting the interest on the principal and also interest on the power interest, and not losing money because of the market, right? Because there's a war, the war going on. Everything is tied up to the stock market, right? You just playing catch up. You are just praying and hope that you don't lose your money when the market crash, right? So every year you delay, it makes it harder to reach your goal. Every year you put it aside. You look at it, somebody tell you about it, somebody give you the information, but you don't take the action. You are listening to me here. What is today is March 5th, right? You don't listen, and next year, March 5th, 2027, you still don't take an action, but you know that March 5th, 2026 is never going to come back. We are never going to have the same March 5th, 2026. That's why I say time is irreversible and time is also money, right? So time is one of the most powerful wealth building tools that you have. You cannot underestimate it. You can't estimate that you're young, you're older, you are, okay, it's too late for me. It's never too late, right? He said you cannot change the past, right? But you can start where you are and change the future, right? So if you know and you don't do anything about it, that is when you are playing ignorance, right? Ignorance doesn't necessarily mean, ignorance can mean two things. Ignorance can mean you didn't know about it at all, right? It was just a brand new information, or it can also mean you knew and just did not take action, right? You can have the information. We say knowledge is power. But if we have the knowledge, okay, and we are not taking any action, right, towards that knowledge, what good is that going to do for us, right? We are not going to benefit from the knowledge, right? So when we have the knowledge, it's going to help us take that actionable, the activity that is going to help us so that we can retire at the appropriate age, right? You don't have to, like I said earlier, you do not have to wait until you're 65 or work until your bone break for you to retire. With a better strategy, you can retire whenever you feel like, right? Yes, you can. And also, like I said, time is power. It's a powerful tool. You can never get it back once you lose it. All right. That takes us to step 5, right? Step 5 is protect the plan. How are you going to protect it from? Life is unpredictable, right? Illness, job, emergent job loss, right? You can lose your job anytime, any soon. It can take you a while to find another job, right? And illness, right? When it comes to illness, like I said about, I talked earlier in the when we started this video, it's not just any illness, it's those critical and chronic illness that takes a longer time to heal, right? And once you are not working because you are sick, not is your bills are not going to stop. You still have to pay your bills, right? And even the worst part of it, you have one of the highest bill in United States, which is what the medical bills. So that's why we say critical and chronic illness is the number one cause of poverty in America, right? It's not bankruptcy. Most of us think it's bankruptcy, but illness, critical and chronic illness is number one cause of bankruptcy, right? Like I said, you don't have any income coming in, right? Neither is your bills going to stop. Okay. And also, you have one of the highest bill, right? And also, sometimes when people are sick, right, the fact that they don't have any income protection, they don't have any backup plan, they are just relying on their emergency safety, safety account, right? The emergency safety funds. It delayed their healing process, right? It's not even just the illness. It just thought that they're having all this bill piled up is actually going to delay their healing process, okay? So without protection, a setback can wipe out years of progress. Everything that you can work up to this point, it can wipe you out completely. And illness, it can happen to anybody, like I've already said, right? So income protection and insurance are part of the strong retirement strategy. You need to protect your income. We work so hard, right? Without income, we can barely survive. So that income needs to, right? It needs to be protected first of all. And also having an insurance, also part of the strong retirement strategy that we need, right? It's not about building money, right? You can build money in your under your pillow, in your savings, your savings barely giving you any interest rate, right? You're barely giving any return back on your savings, but it's about protecting so that you can enjoy it later. Because if you put that money and sit there in your regular fixed environment, the savings, the checking, and the CDs, inflation is eating away, right? Because the way things were 1 year ago, 2 years, 3 years ago, things are very expensive, right? You remember when candy used to be 50 cents? Now you cannot use the same 50 cents to buy candy, right? Because the price of things has even go up higher. How about price of gas, right? I remember it used to be 50 cents. You can use like $20 to fill your tank, but now you have to pay like almost up to $60 to get a full tank, right? So just putting your money, right, building that money and putting it in that fixed environment, it's just not going to help you out either. Because like I said, inflation is just going to eat all that money away, right? We just like to look at money and happy that we have it there, but that is going to help us, okay? So now talking about these 5 steps, right? So now we figure out the steps, right? We have figured out the gap. We have done the calculation, right? And know where the gap is and what are we going to do about this information. We want to protect, like I said, have a safety plan in place, right? So this is why I build up a very wonderful tool, right? And I want to give you that tool for free, right? It will help you take out the guesswork out of this, right? So I created the free retirement readiness calculator. Okay, so it's going to help you instead of just doing the calculation yourself, you just put in the numbers and it's going to help you calculate your retirement readiness, right? Like I said, if you don't know, if you're not exposed to the information, there's nothing that you can do about it. Okay, so what is it going to help you? It's going to determine if you're on track, identify your retirement gap, right? If there's a gap, we need to know how we're going to close that gap, right? Adjust your strategy so that you can feel confident about your future. You can actually look up as a retirement as a breathable moment, right? A very happy time that you can have with your family and, all the list, all the dreams that you wish when you know that you're going to retire, that can actually be a reality, something that will come true. It will not just stuck in a dream state or state of mind, right? So, that clarity will changes everything. Knowing your numbers is the first step of, to taking control of your financial future, right? So, do you remember the woman that I told you about earlier, my client that we put in the numbers, and she got very panicky because the numbers were not, like I said, the math were not math, right? It wasn't what she was hope or expecting, right? So she had two choices. Like I said, initially she panicked, right? Or she could continue panicking. That's the two choices. Continue panicking or take control. So she chose, like I said, she's a strong woman. She's very strategic and she want to take control of what is ahead of her. Some things are out of our control. But when it comes to putting in some strategy to help us to retire, in a good financial state, that is something that we have control, right? So she chose to control, right? We created a strategy together, right? We adjusted her contribution and built protection, right? Set also a time limit. We put her account in a safe environment that gives you downside protection. Unlike those investors in the stock market that you are hoping and praying, there's no war, there's no illness like COVID-19, like, one put everybody in panicking mode, right? While everybody's panicking because they're losing a huge chunk of their money in the market, we put her money in an environment that has downside market protection so that she can breathe comfortable. Do you know what she said? Month later, she told me, I finally feel like I'm driving my future instead of being dragged towards it, right? Let me repeat that, right? So that it can sit deeper in you. I finally feel like I'm driving my future instead of being dragged towards it. Okay. So when I thought about her statement, you know what comes to my mind, right? So remember when you are driving, okay? So you are driving a car, you are controlling the steering wheel, right? And you have your foot on the gas pedal, okay? You have it on the gas and you also have it on the brake, right? So you control how fast, how you slow down, right? So that's how you know you can control it, okay? So what if, right? What if your money is still in an environment that is unstable, okay? What if you have an environment that is unstable? Let's say you are driving in the black ice, okay? The black ice, even though you have your foot, you have the foot on the brake all the time, and you are controlling the steering wheel, right? But because the environment is unstable, what will happen, right? No matter how control you think you have on the steering, you can end up hitting, right? Off-road, hitting another car, going into hitting a pole and get into a very bad motor vehicle, right? So when you put your money, that's what I think about it. When you put your money in an environment that is stable and is secure, it's like driving in a road, right? A free road, free of obstacle, free of black ice, right? That way you do not slip and fall down, right? And break your hip or get into a very bad motor vehicle accident, right? So that's what makes that's what I thought about it when she said that instead of being dragged towards the future, she actually driving her future, right? All right. So what is the difference? The only difference between her and you is she decided to look at the numbers, right? She did not ignore it, right? She took action. Once she knew about it, when she knew about the gap, she took an action. So what about you, right? The question is, will you keep hoping or will you want to know, right? So that is why, like I said, I gave this very free. Click the link below, right? Run your numbers. And if there's a gap, send me the word retire, right? RETIRE, right? Retire. And there's also a link to book your free consultation, right? When you see the gap, and we can actually sit down and figure out some strategies, right? So that you can actually be the driver, right? You'll be the one controlling your retirement future, right? Not the market, not the government, right? Nothing is going to control that. You will be in total control, right? So you deserve more than survival. We've been in survival mode for so many years. It's about time that we have clarity, right? So that we are not just hoping and surviving just by. You deserve security, right? You deserve freedom. Okay. So thank you again for listening. Like I said, if this is your first time, like, right, comment, subscribe to my channel. Like I said, this will be going to be a weekly YouTube video that I'll be creating to share some insights so that we can all, right, have clarity, know better, right? And also we can make some good financial decisions so that we can have a better future, right? All right. Thank you.